Hey y'all, it's your Missniecytv, and I'm here to do a review for Sistas Season 8, Episode 17. The episode picks up and we see Gary in the hospital and he's trying to fight to get out of his restraints. And as he's fighting, Hudson walks in the room like, what are you doing? Gary's like, why am I in these restraints? This is only something an enemy would do to me. Hudson's like, no, I'm your friend. But I had to put you in these restraints because you were so upset about everything that happened with Agent Watt that I had to do it for your own good. Gary has this flashback of him and Hudson working together. And when he comes out this flashback, he's like, oh, Hudson, you work for me. Hudson's like, yeah, I see that your memory's coming back. That's a good thing. And Gary's like, where's Andy? Hudson's like, oh, you don't need to worry about Andy. She's poison. You can't trust her. She don't really love you like that and all this other stuff. And he's like, I'm your friend. You can trust me. And then he goes toward Gary's face and Gary backs away like, Hudson, are you trying to flirt with this man? Let me know. Hudson is definitely given the fact that he wants to be with Gary, but Gary won't accept his sexual advances, so he had to go the extreme lane. Over at the bank, we see Maurice trying to help this lady customer. She comes in with a jar of pennies, and she's like, can you roll these out for me? Maurice is like, you're at the bank, you have to have a bank account with us for us to do that. He used to ask her, does she have a bank account there? The lady is like, no. I feel like you just don't want to do it. That's why you're saying that, because you're too fabulous and stuff. Basically, she starts making homophobic comments, and that's when Paige chimes in, like, I can't have you talking to my coworker like that, but maybe I could try to help you. The lady basically says, I need you to roll these pennies out for me. And Paige basically tells her that she won't be able to help her because of the homophobic comments that she made, and the lady gets mad and she walks out. And Paige and Maurice look at each other and they make comments about the lady as she's leaving. Maurice is surprised that Paige defended him in a moment, and Paige reveals to him that she has a gay brother and she doesn't tolerate hate towards the LGBT community. Maurice is like, you're not as bad as I thought. That's when Sabrina comes in and she's like, what's going on here? Sabrina doesn't really care because she's still dealing with that stuff with Rich. So she goes in her office, and as she goes in her office, Paige and Maurice are like, something is always going on with her. It's always a reality show. Over at Hayden and Tamara are getting down to business, and as they're getting down to business, Hayden's like, I'm gonna try something a little different. I want you to call me a different name. And Tamara's like, what? He's like, Gary. Tamara's like, Gary, what you want me to call you Gary for? Do you have a secret obsession with this man? Tamara and Hayden basically have this back and forth about Hayden's obsession with Gary, and Hayden's like, I'm not obsessed with him. And Tamara's like, well, I already apologized for everything that happened with Gary. And if you can't forgive me, I could just leave. Hayden just can't get over the fact that Tamara slept with Gary, and he can't understand why all these women are so obsessed with Gary. From Andy to Penelope to Tamara, and Tamara's like, well, you and Gary went to college together. Hayden's like, no. I've known him since college, but we didn't go to college together. Hayden's basically like, I'm tired of being the supportive player. I really want to know why Gary has all these women obsessed with him. And Tamara's basically like, is that why you wanted to kill him? Oh, Hayden's beef with Gary started all the way back in college, and Hayden was trying to be buddy-buddy with Gary, even though he secretly hated him. Over at the juice bar, we see Rich and Jordan talking, and Rich is telling Jordan everything that happened at the bank when he went there to go talk to Sabrina. Now, mind you, Rich is dodging all Sabrina's calls because he doesn't want to talk to her right now because of everything that happened. Jordan's basically like, who's Damani? And Rich gives him the whole thing about who Damani is, and Jordan's like, maybe they was talking about work. Rich is like, no, you gotta see the way he looks at her. He wants to be more than just colleagues. And Rich's whole thing is that he thinks that Sabrina's gonna choose Damani over him. Rich, you gotta stop with all these insecurities before Sabrina actually does walk away. Rich is basically like, enough about me though. What's going on with you and Andy? And Jordan gives him the whole spiel about how he hasn't talked to Andy, but Rich is like, you should talk to her and call her. So Jordan calls her, and over at Andy's penthouse, she's on the phone with the partners and she's trying to sing all her praises because Marie told her that she only has a week to get back into the firm or she's going to take her business somewhere else. But as she's talking to the partners and making her calls, Jordan calls her and he's like, can we meet somewhere and talk? They're trying to figure out a place that they can meet. Jordan suggests the juice bar. Andy's like, no, because I don't want Sabrina and Rich all in their business. Then Jordan suggests her house, and Andy's like, no, so your sister could take another cheap shot at me? Andy, she's only doing what you allow her to do. Why don't you stand up for yourself and tell her that you ain't taking it anymore? She's gonna stop doing it. But they eventually agreed to go to Billy Jake's and have their conversation. I wonder how this conversation gonna go, because Penelope and Robin are still there. Over at the restaurant, we see Penelope and Robin, and they're still talking, and Robin's trying to talk to her about the trial that's coming up because she has to prepare for it because she was the one that confessed to stabbing Gary. Penelope's not trying to hear all that. She's not trying to talk about that. She wants to talk about Robin and his personal life with Andy and how Andy has all these men obsessed with her. And she gives Robin the same old sob story that she's been giving everybody else about how this is Andy's fault. How Andy came to destroy her and her brother's life, and Andy's the reason why she lost her baby. And Andy did all this so that Penelope could get out the way. But one thing I did like about this scene is even though that Robin's not on good terms with Andy right now, he still took the time to defend her. And he's like, I don't think Andy was a master manipulator, it was Gary. Then Penelope says, I don't live in Andy's head, but I still see that she has a place in your heart. And Robin's trying to deviate the conversation back to the trial. Once again, Penelope ain't trying to hear all that. She's like, Agent Watt is my friend. Robin is like, Agent Watt is not your friend. He's the same one that tried to leave you in a jail. And if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be out of jail. Or Andy calling me to get you some help. Penelope wants to sing praises and give thanks to everybody else but Andy, because she really deep down hates Andy for whatever reason. But Gary is the real reason that Penelope's in this situation, but she'll never want to blame him for it. Over at Zach and Fatima comes in from the Sister Circle meeting with Miss Marie. Zach asked her what happened, if they talked about him. Fatima's like, yeah, but it wasn't that serious. Then they start talking about the whole Agent Watt and how they have to give him a name in 24. Is like, I just don't know why we don't give him the video of Gary and Tamara, and they'll see that they had a motive for it. And Zach is like, or we could have them go against each other and one of them will end up confessing. You know how you do that, Zach? Give Tamara some money and she'll start singing like a canary. Over at Karen's, we see Karen come in from the Sister Circle meeting and Miss Lisa's sitting there and she's like, where have you been? Why don't you listen to the doctor's orders? You must not care about your unborn children because you don't want to rest. Karen's like, I went to the Sister Circle meeting with Andy. Karen's like, I went on my own even though she told me that she was going to put me on the phone. I wanted to go see her. Miss Lisa's like, screw Andy. And I'm like, Miss Lisa, you shouldn't be mad at Andy. She didn't do nothing. She actually tried to help Karen. Karen took it upon herself and not to. And Miss Lisa's like, I gotta go out, but I'm gonna have somebody come over here and babysit you. And we all already know that the babysitter's gonna be here. Over at the bank, we see Sabrina get a call from Pam, and Pam is trying to talk to her about the business plan, but Pam notices that Sabrina's not herself and she's really down and sad. So Pam asks her what's wrong. Sabrina goes into the whole thing about Rich. Pam is basically like, I'm so sorry to hear that, and I know that I'm not a part of the Sister Circle, but I'm here for you too. And Pam is like, since I helped you, you gotta help me and do that business plan. Sabrina's like, I'm gonna get on it. Over at the airport, Tony approaches Danny, and Danny is basically like, what are you doing here? We're not supposed to be around each other. I have HR watching us. And Tony's like, that's exactly what I want to talk to you about. Danny's like, as much as I would love to talk about it right now, we can't because we got people watching us. She's talking about Leonard, because Leonard's sitting there drinking his coffee. So Tony catches the hint, and he's like, oh, we'll just talk about it at home. Danny's like, okay. And Tony leaves. That's when Leonard comes up, and he's like, Danielle, I heard that there was a grievance put in by HR about you and Tony's relationship. Danny's like, it wasn't put in by anybody, it was you. Then Leonard starts talking about how he's more qualified for the leadership program and he does more work than Danny. He only got into the leadership program because she laid on her back and she always comes to work high and she doesn't do work. Danny's like, I would rather smell like weed than coffee. And that's when Danny takes his coffee cup and she flips it on him. And I'm like, Danny, you wasn't right for that. Now you really about to get fired. So when Tony and the lady from HR walk over, and I'm like, Danny, you about to get suspended or fired. Danny starts talking about he was harassing me and all this other stuff. And it's like, you can see how crazy she is. She threw coffee on me. And I'm like, both of y'all about to get suspended. They can just roll the cameras back and see that both of y'all was just bothering each other and poking at each other. Back over at the hospital, we see Gary and this nurse comes in. And she's a very pretty lady. And Gary's basically trying to manipulate her into helping him escape from the hospital. He puts his plan into motion and he's like, what have you heard about me? And she's like, I heard that you're rich and you got a lot of money and you help people and I'm sorry about what happened to you because I heard about it. So Erica, that's the nurse's name, and she's like, well, I'll bring you your stuff if you make good on your promise. And Gary's like, of course, I don't believe a word that man is saying. He's just trying to tell you anything so that you can help him escape from the hospital. Back over at Karen's, the babysitter that Miss Lisa called is of course Aaron, and Karen's trying to be all flirty with Aaron. She wants to get down to business, though. She takes it upon herself to kiss him after he's touched her in the belly and she's gotten all hot, right? So they kiss each other, and once they're in the kiss, Aaron backs away. And he's like, the only reason that you're doing this is because Zach moved on and you know that he's not coming back in your life no more. And Karen don't got to answer. Aaron, that's exactly what it is. She knows that she can never get Zach back. So she's moving on to her next option. Aaron doesn't have any feelings for Aaron at all. She's just using Aaron. We're at the restaurant. Penelope and Robin are there, and she's telling Robin that he got something in his eye. He starts rubbing his eye, and Penelope starts rubbing his eye to try to help him out. She gets the eyelash out, and then she tells him to blow on her finger. So he blows it, and then That's when Andy and Jordan walk in. Jordan's like, I'm sorry to bring you here while they were here. And I'm starting to think that Penelope and Jordan set this up so that Penelope could look like she's flirting with Robin. Penelope then peeps Jordan and Andy, and then she starts pulling out her theatrics, rubbing on them and all this other stuff. I think that Jordan and Penelope set this up so Penelope could look like she's flirting with Robin, but it's not gonna work. But let me know what you guys think about this episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, turn on your bell notifications. Bye!